Natalia Osipova is objectively a star of the dance world and, in my opinion, one of the best ballet dancers currently performing. More than just a captivating mover, she is an artist. Beginning her training at the age of 9 through the Moscow State Academy of Choreography, her path as a dancer has never seemed to slow. Joining the Bolshoi Ballet at 18 and climbing through the ranks in just 6 years, she eventually left in 2011. She continued her dancing through guesting positions, but has since landed at the Royal Ballet of London, where she's been a principal since 2013. Throughout this video, I thought it would be fun to watch and provide commentary on some of my favorite clips of Miss Osipova. Natalia Osipova is well known for her impeccable jumps. She, in my opinion, has the best airtime of any female in the ballet world, that I know of at least, or that's really big. Here she is demonstrating. I mean, it's hard for the camera to even follow. And of course, just like perfect balance there. Now, I'm not a fan of her turns. I'm a huge fan of how she jumps, but I don't love how she turns. However, she makes them happen, like with very little fear and very little hesitation. She just goes for it. Her soda shots are crazy. I mean, she just has this incredible suspension in the air, like she was born to jump. So I don't love the way that when she turns, she kind of just like comes down, not rolling through a whole lot, but I have noticed that seems to be the training for a lot of Russian dancers. It's not a bad thing. I mean, she clearly still makes it happen. It's just not like what I'd love to see as an audience member. Now here's her Odile, the coda of her Odile. Again, I don't love the way her working leg works when she turns, but I'm not going to judge her because she's pulling it off anyway. I think she just has that like drive to just do no matter what. You can see just like, oh, okay, I am doing doubles. I don't really care. I'm getting around twice, and that's something to admire, just that fearlessness that she holds. Oh my gosh, and here she flies across the stage. Such an attitude with her Odile. I love the way she portrays this character because it's so like malevolent and like sexy and seductive, but like evil, which is how Odile's supposed to be. Oh, and she like relishes in herself, kind of like vain and very knowing that she's captured this guy's heart. Just the way she ends this, like completely knowing she has it in the bag. I love it, and I feel like some Odiles are just very, very like composed in their maliciousness, I guess, but she's super expressive. She's clearly like the seducer, and it's just funny how she ends it. She's thrilled that she tricked him, but also she knew she had it all along. There was no question that Odile could trick this guy into loving her. And yeah, I'm curious, like I feel like performers who have this incredible ability to portray these emotions and these characters, I'm always curious what their lives are outside of the studio, because I think that having a lot of life experience can really inform the characters you portray. So I'm like, you know, what books does she read? What movies does she watch? What, you know, love and betrayal and heartbreak has she been through? And that is research I haven't done. Maybe I'll do a second video on her, but it's something that sparks my curiosity because she's clearly able to bring all of that into her performances. Her ability to be soft and feminine is highly contrasted by this very seemingly quirky personality. She also has someone that's very explorative in her movement. This is one of the reasons I'm so drawn to her, because She has in her other movement material, she has this rawness to how she presents the work. I mean, here she's so raw, and it's so beautiful the way she uses her arms. Even though she's clearly coming from a balletic posture, it feels relatable. And I don't know if it's my bias as an American, but I kind of see her as this individual in the ballet world, where oftentimes in very classical technique, you can end up having kind of cookie cutter dancers, which creates a wonderful corps de ballet, but that uniqueness is lost. And that's something that she definitely brings to her dancing, and I think it's why she's able to bridge that gap of classical to contemporary work. Here she's clearly able to delve into this contemporary realm. Her technique comes into play, but she also has that complete abandon in her upper body. Not afraid to sickle her feet or flex her feet like some classically trained dancers would be in. She's able to use her technique when she needs to, but also allow herself to be so human in her movement. And I'm curious as to how she became that way. Just watching her in these interviews, she does not appear to be your typical ballerina. She has her hair dyed different colors. She'll crop it really short, which is not something you always expect from someone coming from a classical background. And I think it just goes to show her openness to new experiences, not being afraid to be different, not being afraid to express herself in a variety of different ways. And I love that. Osipova gives one of the best Giselles, in my opinion, especially Giselle in Act 2 during the Willies. She has such incredible jumps that she really floats in the air. Again, floating just like a ghost. The way her port de bras comes down so slowly gives you that illusion of still being suspended in the air. And of course, Giselle's costume helps with that too. Just impeccable control. You can see the stability in her foot as she's trying to balance on the shank of her shoe. It's really difficult. Just balancing on a point shoe without being up on your toes, balancing on flat and when you're on one leg. The way a point shoe is designed is there is a shank that doesn't fit the whole of your foot, so you're basically balancing on this plank, and it's really, really difficult. So that moment in Giselle for any ballerina is very impressive, like way more impressive than it's perceived to be. So that's just some extra information if you don't already know. One thing that bothers me about her is the state of her point shoes. I feel like they always look really dead on stage. They just look like they're on their last life. And I find it so interesting because doing a bunch of bourrées, as she just did there, is very difficult. It's not difficult with dead shoes, but it's pretty uncomfortable to do. And balancing and turning is much harder on dead shoes, at least in my experience, maybe not in hers. But my assumption for why her shoes always look like they're holding on for dear life is because she does have these incredible jumps that she has to really be able to push fully through her feet and land really quietly. So I would assume that part of the reason she's always sporting what appears to be soft shoes is because it helps her in her ability to have such quiet, graceful landing. Because when you have harder shoes, it is more difficult. It's harder to get off the ground, they're louder. So that's my assumption, but I don't know. And I will say that it's no judgment on her. Every dancer has their own way of doing things, and I'm no one to judge. She's one of the best ballet dancers in the world. But it is humorous to me just how dead her shoes always look. And you can look at numerous cases and examples of like videos and photos where you're like, girl, like your company buys you shoes. Take advantage of that. But I'm assuming there's a reason for why they're always like that. I had to bring this in because how often do you see ballerinas able to dance in this manner, which is why I love her. I mean, she's like, yeah, I'll do anything. I will literally do anything. I love her. I mean, she kind of reminds me, if I didn't know her background, I would almost think she was an American who started in the competition dance world and then had a knack for ballet and really transitioned into that. She kind of reminds me of a dancer with that background in the fact that she's able to just do everything and is not afraid to like shake it out in front of an audience and jazz it up basically. But that's not her background, which makes her even more intriguing to me and appealing.
Я думаю, что я очень стеснительная и нерешительная, и, наверное, на сцене все очень удивляются, какая я очень, стеснительная. И я никогда в жизни не могу говорить о себе.
This isn't always a positive thing because it can go too far, but from my understanding of some of the best artists is that they tend to be hypercritical of themselves, and for whatever reason that really drives them to be like out of this world talented. And I don't necessarily fully condone extreme self-pressure because it can go too far. The perfectionism of the art world can really eat at somebody. But for some personality types, I think it works. And for her, in just listening to her say that, I mean, she really is. She's one of the top dancers in the entire world. And I'm not sure she would be there if she hadn't had that self-criticism. For her to self-admit that she's shy, to me it shows that dance and performing is her outlet of expression. And maybe that's why she's so good at it, because in her day-to-day life, if she is more shy in her relations or her social abilities, then the stage is where she's able to be all of the characters that she doesn't necessarily express on the daily. Okay, here is the clip of Giselle's mad scene, and I actually want to make a whole separate video on this because I have a lot to say, and the whole thing is, at least this version, this filmed version, is one of the best portrayals. Here she is in Romeo and Juliet. And again, I mean, Juliet's supposed to be 14. So when a ballerina dances Juliet, it has to be, at least at the beginning, very lighthearted, very, it's like your first love, that intensity of a first love, the intensity of the infatuation you feel. The dancer has to basically remember what it was like to be a teenager and be able to portray that naivety, and I think she does a wonderful job. And of course, she's so beautiful. Oh. She almost fell, but she made it happen. She worked it out. One thing I love about live performance is that sometimes things go wrong, and it's so cool to see how a performer is able to really, they have to be thinking on their feet so quickly and be able to react immediately to when something doesn't work out. And she did that. I mean, they saved it. If you weren't paying really close attention, you wouldn't have noticed. And I like to see how dancers think on their feet and how they adjust for the unpredictable moments that do occur in live performance. She's such a bridge between classical and contemporary ballet. Just a pure abandon she has. Oh, and right here. Oh my gosh. Did you see that? We should go back. She has a moment of tripping. But look, she doesn't let it faze her. And I don't know why I get so much satisfaction seeing top ballet dancers have little mistakes. Maybe because it like humanizes them more for me, and I'm like, oh, like they are real life humans who also make mistakes and are imperfect. In this rehearsal video of Anastasia at the Royal Ballet, I mean, it's amazing to watch her in rehearsal. It's just as intense as on stage. And her ability to be imperfect in some of her shapes and positions brings her, like, the characters down to a very human level when she's doing her classical work that's supposed to look perfect. I mean, and she does a great job. And her training accounts for her ability to be able to do that. But it's something within her personality and her artistry that she's able to take on those roles with the imperfections that I'm so drawn to, because I think it's way more beautiful to see the flaws, and that's just that is totally personal. Here she is portraying the dying swan, and I mean the intensity of her arms, the grotesqueness of dying, of watching life pulsate and try to hold on, it's so intense in its last moments, just being so vulnerable. Natalia's desire to step outside of her own box and explore different repertoire, I believe, is what led her to leaving the Bolshoi. And mind you, she was a principal, so to take that leap of faith and leave such a secure and coveted job, I find really admirable and quite unique. She clearly desires more, and she doesn't want to be pigeonholed into just one thing. In general, I just love her because she's so unique. That individuality is what gives her such presence on stage, and it's what has driven her to seek out so many different kinds of movement. So anyway, I hope you liked this video on Natalia Osipova. In the future, I really want to do a video just covering her Giselle Mad scene because it's just an impeccable performance. If you're interested in more videos, please subscribe. If you liked it or disliked it, please use those like or dislike buttons to give me some feedback. Same with the comments section. I'm very open to any type of constructive criticism because I want to make these better. I want to grow this channel, and I'm really interested to hear like my viewers' perspective, what you think about what I think, and maybe videos you would want to see in the future, maybe things you don't like. That's really helpful in me understanding like what I should continue to do and what I shouldn't do. So again, thank you, and I'll see you on the next video.